Welcome. My name is Vickie, and today we're going to talk about the role of the family in creating healthy eating habits. I'm a food journalist and chef, and the writer of the Type 1 and Type 2 Diabetes Handbook. I have been in researching food and nutrition and healthy eating for many years because my son Luca was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes when he was only 8 years old. We have been following the low-carb diet for 8 years now, and really believe that this is the healthy way, not just for him, but also for us as a family to go forward. We know that families really determine the way that we perceive healthy food. Mothers and main caregivers in particular are the ones that drive the meal planning and the buying of foods and can create habits that last a lifetime with family members. But how do parents influence children's diet? In the first place, by modulating behavior. Children learn by emulating. They watch us and then they learn from us. So if we normalize sitting around a dinner table every night, or if you cannot do it every night, often, and just eating natural foods made from in home and a variety of foods, you will make a big difference in the way that they perceive foods. I think parents introduce new foods to young children, and when they don't like it, they never introduce it again. And they say, oh, my child doesn't like broccoli, or my child doesn't like tomatoes. And sometimes it even starts as a fight in the family that children are forced to eat these foods if they don't want to. And that creates also a negative association with healthy food. So if you just don't make a fight of it, don't make a big deal of it, and you sit around a table and they see you every night eating a varied diet of good proteins, good fats, and fibrous vegetables, this is the biggest thing that you can do for your family to create a healthy perception of food. Food availability. You know, if you have a packet of chips or biscuits or sweets in the cupboard, you are going to eat it. We all know it. It calls to you. You know it's there. And yet we still buy these things. You know, if you do not have unhealthy foods in the home, your children and your family will not eat it. They will not, because it's not there. And also, they won't have their mind occupied with it. It's very interesting how the knowledge of having these snacks in the cupboard can influence us. Remember, these foods were designed to be highly addictive, and sugar drives addiction. So to know that these sugary snacks are in the house will definitely have you eating more of it. So the best thing for me is just to not have it in the house. In fact, you know, when I go shopping, there's whole aisles in the supermarket that I just don't go into. I don't go into the cereal aisle. I don't go into the biscuit aisle. I don't go into the chips aisle. I don't go into the juice aisle. I basically stay on the perimeter of the supermarket. I go into the fresh produce, I go down to the meat, and then I go to dairy products, and then I leave. Okay. So the important thing is, if you have healthy foods in the home, people will eat healthy foods. It's very simple. So parental attitudes also determine what your family eats. What parents or main caregivers believe to be healthy or what they love to eat will be what their children eat. I get to do with so many young families that really try to change their eating habits. And then you get one parent, one main caregiver that just refuses to eat anything healthy. And you know what the sad thing is that the negative parent, the parent that does not like to eat vegetables or healthy food, have a bigger influence on the children than the parent that wants to eat healthy food. And that is really a perception about healthy food, that healthy food is something that should be not delicious. You know, we see dry salad leaves and uncooked vegetables or whatever. It's an association of what is healthy. And it's something very emotional and subliminal that is just placed in children's minds, that the unhealthy food is the delicious food. You know, it's the pizza and the pasta, and it's associated with family togetherness and things like that. And the healthy food is almost like a punishment. So to just normalize cooking home food every day, just cooking at home, because why? Then you know what goes into your food. You know there's no preservatives, colorants, there's no seed oils in your food. So just by cooking homemade food every day and eating it together as a family, you can change these perceptions. Because you know what? Children experience, they actually appreciate your time and your presence. So just by eating together with them, they will start appreciating the food that you serve them. Processed foods, foods created in restaurants, foods created at takeaway restaurants, foods created in processed food, finished meals in stores and supermarkets contain these seed oils. So if you look at a week and 4 days of the week, you are eating either a takeaway or you are eating in a restaurant or you are buying food that's already processed in a store, your family's intake of seed oils are sky high, dangerously high. And because these seed oils contain high amounts of omega-6 fatty acids, and the process of making these seed oils are absolutely carcinogenic. So seed oils in processed foods drive inflammation in our families. On the other hand, sugar and refined white starches and gluten also drives inflammation. Many of these foods in takeaway stores and restaurants are filled with starches and wheat flours and all different, just refined white starches like pasta, bread, rice, these things. So your diet becomes extremely high in these fine processed starches and sugars. Remember what happens in the body when you eat something like pasta. There's a glucose response in your blood vessels, and you need insulin to take the glucose to your cells. So this is why it's really harmful to have a whole week of only eating these foods in restaurants and takeaways, because your family is influenced by that and it drives inflammation. Okay, so it's really unhealthy to do that. And you, as a main caregiver, should take responsibility for your family's health. So by cooking food at home, you cut out the sugar, you cut out the seed oils, and by introducing fibrous green vegetables and things like leafy greens, like rockets and salad greens, you reduce the intake of fine refined white starches and glucose. It's as simple as that. You know that emotional eating is a learned response. You probably have seen the words comfort food all over in supermarkets or in food magazines. We love things like that. But you know, it creates a weird behavior in us, ourselves, and also our children, that they feel that they should be comforted by food. This is not a good habit to have, because when something bad happens, a disappointment at school, they want comfort food. And what do we associate comfort food with? It's normally something sugary and doughy and deep fried. And these are all the things that I just told you drive inflammation and can lead to chronic disease. If you give your child the ice cream because they won the hockey or they didn't pass the exam, so you give them a donut to make them feel better, this is a very dangerous emotional behavior to start teaching in your children. You know, when my son Luca was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes, I remember that it was Easter. He was diagnosed just before Easter. And Easter for us was always hot cross buns. That was our association, hot cross buns and Easter eggs. And suddenly I had to change this around, because to be type 1 diabetes means that you cannot eat high amounts of sugar or carbohydrates, which is in a hot cross bun. So we decided to change this behavioral pattern in our family by having games instead and hiding little reading books for him to find instead of chocolate eggs. And that's the first time that I realized that I was teaching my children to associate holidays and high days and special days with sweets and food. And I realized that we had to change this and rather normalize having family time without having the center, the sweet treats and the baked goods and all of that as the center of our almost shared pleasure. Rather play a board game, go for a walk in the park, normalize doing things together that's not centered around unhealthy foods. There's another word that I see so often, even in health articles, magazines, all over the place, and that's the word grazing. Somewhere people started believing, and I think a lot of medical dietitians and so forth started telling people that it's very, very healthy to graze. So grazing is like having lots of little small meals during the day. And we like to raise our toddlers and our small children in that way. And this pattern that we create of constantly eating is actually wreaking havoc in our children's emotional response to eating, but also physically in their bodies. Let's just have a look at what happens when you eat. So let's say specifically for toddlers, moms tend to give them little, these little sugary pouches of fruit puree or a little piece of dried fruit, or maybe they think it's a healthy snack like an oat bar or something like that, or just a piece of fruit. So every time they eat, there is a glucose response in the blood, which means the body must excrete some insulin to get the glucose to the cells, and then the blood sugar drops. When the blood sugar drops, the child doesn't feel nice, might become a little bit cryy, a little bit, irritated. Mother gives another piece of fruit or a biscuit or a cookie, even if it's a healthy oat or protein biscuit. There's a glucose response, again, insulin. So throughout the day, this child, because they are constantly eating, because they are grazing, has this glucose insulin response going up and down, up and down. And now you don't understand why your toddler is unruly and you can't, do like tantrums and things like that and seem irritated. But you're creating this response in their little bodies. Apart from that, you are not teaching them what it feels to be hungry. This child is never hungry because you're constantly feeding the child. I think sometimes parents keep children busy by giving them food. And I can just imagine the learned response for a little child or even a young child of 6 or 7. When I'm bored, I get food, I eat. So can you hear all these different negative responses towards food that we are actually teaching ourselves to our children? And I think while I'm saying this, I realized that I did that as a mother. We never went out without a good stash of snacks for the kids, because when they got unruly, if you were with friends or you were in a restaurant, what did you do? You put something in their mouth. And it's such a bad habit because, like I said, so you must learn when you are hungry. You must learn the signs of hunger so that you know that you only eat when you are hungry. But when we almost forcefully feeding our children constantly, they never get that. They never learn to be hungry. And it's a very, very important driver in obesity, is to not know when you are hungry and when you are full. When should you start to eat? When should you stop to eat? And we're teaching this to our children. There are certain barriers to healthy eating in all families, and actually to all of us in the Western diet. So there are certain limitations that we believe we have to eating healthy, and these are absolutely myths. So in the first place, there's certain myths about what is healthy. So we know that protein and good fats like butter and things like eggs were ostracized by the medical profession and said that this was the cause of heart disease. We now know through a lot of different research and published medical papers that this is not true. This was not the driver of heart disease. So eating eggs, butter, and the fat on the meat and eating a lot of meat is definitely not what caused heart disease. The underlying cause of heart disease is inflammation. And what causes inflammation in the body? Inflammation in the body is caused by a diet high in seed oils, refined white starches, and sugar. Okay, so these are the things that really cause this. And because people still believe in this myth about meat and about eggs, they base their diets heavily on things like starches. Because if you don't eat a lot of protein, what do you eat? You eat a lot of starches and refined foods. I know it's not easy to feed a family on only protein, but you know what? If you rather spend your budget on buying good quality protein and good quality fats like butter and things like eggs, and you do not go out so often and do not buy takeaway so often, then you do have enough money to do that. Eating out is expensive, and eating out is really bad for your health. I know there's special days and high days when you want to celebrate, and that is okay. But to go and eat out 3 times a week and have the rest of the week takeaways costs a lot of money. And that money can be rather invested in your family's health by buying good quality proteins and good fats and leafy green vegetables and fibrous vegetables, what I call the low carb vegetables. So I think the perception of what we perceive to be healthy, and then on the other side, the perception of how expensive it is to eat, is two things that's actually not really a cause not to cook at home and eat healthily. So the other thing that's really important is that people say, but I don't have time to cook. It is true. To get home maybe at 7 at night and then to start cooking is really, really hard to do. But you know what? A little bit of planning, a little bit of meal planning, a little bit of bulk cooking when you have the time can really be a solution for you. If you realize that this will change your family's healthy lifestyle and make them healthier, then you will make that change. They always say you can either spend money on being healthy or you can spend a lot more money on being sick and having to drink pills and having to go pay doctor's bills. And I choose to spend money on my family's health and also to spend my time on my family's health. So what are a few strategies that you can follow to change your family's diet into a more healthier lifestyle diet? I think the first place is involving the whole family. We tend to exclude our children from these decisions. And by just involving them and discussing with them why you are choosing healthier foods, you include them in this very important decision making. I remember when Luca was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes, we as a family immediately realized that we cannot eat one way and Luca must eat another way. And I think in many households, that's what happens. You know, you cook for the family and then there's one person that eats differently, or the children eats one menu and you eat another menu. That must be so exhausting to create this way of eating. And also, again, you are not teaching your children to eat healthily and a varied diet because you eat different food from them. So I think it's very important to sit down with your kids and say, we are going to eat healthily as a family. These are the things that's harming our health. And that's why we are going to focus on these things that is making us healthy. And from the first day, we included everybody in our family, in our life, a healthy lifestyle. When we changed to a low carb diet, we even said, this is why we are doing it. We are doing it for Luca. And we all did it. And it wasn't easy, you know, in the beginning to introduce these new foods to the kids, to rather give them zucchini noodles instead of pasta or broccoli rice instead of white rice. And there was obviously resistance, but we just normalized it by just continuing to eat this way and just not making a big deal of it. Then basically, I think we realized that this low carb diet was also benefiting us, that we were feeling better, that we were feeling healthier, and we all started adopting it as our own lifestyle. And as I said in the beginning, we have been eating this way now for 8 years. So really, this is for us now much more than just a diet. It's the way that we live. When we converted to a low carb diet, at first, I tried to change everything overnight. I went home and I threw out all the cereals and all the biscuits and all the bread and all the pasta. And you know what? It only lasted 2 weeks because you cannot just make such an impactful change and just carry on. You need strategies. You need to find recipes that work for your family. And you need to just develop meal plans and ideas that they love to eat. So I went back to the drawing board and we slowly but surely introduced this diet to the family. And I found that gradual changes was much easier on my family's palate and in teaching them new foods than trying to force them to change all at once. So we changed first in our family, we changed breakfasts because breakfasts were quite easy for us in the sense that our children loved things like bacon and eggs and sausages and omelets. So that's what we started with. So instead of making them a bowl of porridge or giving them some cereal in the morning, we started by just making a protein-based breakfast. And we carried on with that for a while until everybody settled into that. And they loved it. That's the thing. That's one of the myths I think that we think. We think that our children will not like the healthy food. You know what? They love healthy food. It's us teaching them that some things are healthy and not delicious. It's an absolute perception in the mind. So once we had the breakfast done, I could change evenings, the dinners to low carb. For me, that was very easy because we still had a protein-based dinner. So if I made chicken, instead of cooking rice and making potatoes with it, I now cooked cauli rice, or I made a potato salad, but with cauliflower. I made a salad every evening with it. I did some green beans or some steamed broccoli with it. So the diet became more varied and everybody could eat what they wanted. I must say, in the beginning, I made many different vegetables every evening to give the children a choice, that they could select whatever they felt like eating. And after a few months, this also became normalized. This was the way that we made potato salad. This was our rice. This was our noodles that we ate. So for me, the biggest challenge was changing lunch times and also what is, snack time at school. Because these things were normally based on starches and things like sandwiches and breads and things like that. So for me, that took the longest. But the main thing is that doing a gradual change and letting the family also be part of your decisions and giving them a bit more choice in the beginning made a big difference in the way that we changed to a low-carb diet. So gradual changes might be better for your family than one sudden big change. Meal prepping and bulk cooking will save your life. Let me tell you. I did mention it earlier, but to set every weekend to sit down and see what you have in your cupboards, what do you have in your fridge, and make a proper shopping list and go to the store and only buy the things on the shopping list. If you shop without a shopping list, you tend to buy things you don't need and snacks and things that's unhealthy. Staying within your shopping list. Also, don't go shopping hungry. You will buy things you don't need and you will buy things that you will regret to have. And then only staying, as I said, in the perimeter of the supermarket. Go to the healthy bits, all the vegetables, go to the dairy, go to the meat department. These are all the things that you need. These, just by prepping and having a good shopping list, can also have a great impact on your family's health. And then by sitting and planning some meals for the week, when you come home at 7 on a Tuesday night and you don't have the ingredients in the house in the first place and you don't know what you're going to cook, that's when you feel tired and despondent. That's when you pick up the phone and you order takeaways. Or you say, guys, let's get into the car and let's go and eat out. There's a way in restaurants that really try to get people to eat out. And there was some research that said that children in the USA have about 60% of their meals being from takeaway or restaurant meals. And I know America is not the same, it's not the same all over the world, but it's actually quite shocking considering what those foods consist of. It's normally deep fried things like chips. It's things like burgers, pizza, starchy things. And these are the things that I said earlier that drive inflammation. So by having a small plan and knowing that you're going to have, say, a stir fry on Tuesday, you're going to have chicken on Wednesday, just having that planning and having it on the top of your fridge will already influence your family's health in a great way. I like to do bulk cooking because, you're anyway in the kitchen, you're already planning your meal, you already bought the ingredients. So I always say it takes the same amount of time and effort to put 2 chickens in the oven that it does to cook 1 chicken. And when you have cold chicken in the fridge, it's so easy to create a new meal. You can create a quick pie. You can make, a quick stir fry with cooked chicken and things like that. So it's really for me, when I do cooking, I try to bulk up. If I make a big pot of bolognese, I just make an extra kilogram of minced meat and also some bone broth, things that are easy to cook a lot of. So these strategies will help you, because when the food, the healthy food, is in the fridge and the children start getting hungry, they can just go and take a cup of bone broth. They can just go and take a cup of a bowl of bolognese. For us, that is really the most important thing. We cook dinner so that we have leftovers the next day. And I know many people do not like to cook like that, but I don't know how else you can stay healthy. Because if you don't have good sources of protein in the fridge, then what will you eat? You will start eating things like sandwiches and starches. Okay, so we cook dinner, we cook more for dinner so that we have leftovers for the next day for breakfast and for lunches. So bulk cooking is a really great strategy in which you can keep your family healthy. So again, by involving your whole family in the process of this healthy journey, you will see that they will adapt it much easier. And sometimes I even think children adapt faster than we do. Take your children with you when you go grocery shopping. Let them select their favorite vegetables. Tell them why certain vegetables are healthy and involve them in the whole process. You can involve the family in meal planning and ask them, okay, so Monday night we eat fish. What do you feel like eating on Tuesday night? This empowers them. And also, when you then serve them the chicken that they selected on Tuesday night, they will eat it, or hopefully they will eat it, but they will feel more involved in these decisions. I also think that this is such an important part of learning to eat healthy, is just by shopping together and then also by cooking together. Children get so separated from their own food because everything comes in packets. They don't see the food in real life anymore, and then it just appears in front of them at night. So we started on very early on that the boys must make the salad, because we almost eat a salad every night. We basically eat salad every night. So that was for me the simplest thing. And, to just stand in the kitchen and they make a simple salad and you cook the other food, that communal time, that sharing time in the kitchen while cooking food and while cooking healthy food is a very positive experience. The boys are all grown up now, and still this is our habit. So come dinner time and I'm busy cooking, one of the boys will also always come down and say, what salad must I make? And they will cook the salad. So it also empowers them and teach them healthy eating. This is a healthy habit that I hope that they will now live out for the rest of their lives. So involve your family, get them cooking with you, get them shopping healthy food with you, and then eat together around the table. This is how you create healthy family diets. Thank you.